Hi everybody, thank you very much for all of your suggestions. So a couple of you asked for choux pastry and a couple of you asked for eclairs, so I'm combining the two today and I'm going to make eclairs from choux pastry. I'm going to use my own recipe for choux pastry. I go on weight and I'll explain why in a little bit. So we'll run through the ingredients, we'll run through the equipment that I'm going to use, we'll look at the method and then we'll look at decorating and filling them. So quickly come over here, I'm going to be very quick here. I've got 4 large eggs. I start with the eggs because I'm going on weight. I start with the eggs because they're the ones that I can't control. 4 large eggs is around 230 grams. If it's slightly over, whisk them up, just lightly beat them like that. You'll need to do that again in a little bit anyway. But just whisk them up. If you've got 232, just take 2 grams out. 230 grams of egg. I want 230 grams, not millilitres, I want 230 grams of water. I'm going to halve that amount and I want 115 grams of unsalted butter. And just to make things a little bit more difficult, and it's not 115 grams of plain flour, it's 130. I add a little bit more because I want a bit more puff. So in the pan here, I've got my rubber spatula. You can use a wooden spoon if you want to. I've got the water and I've got the butter. What I've also got in there is a pinch of salt and a tablespoon of caster sugar. That's optional. I'm making sweet eclairs or sweet profiteroles. If you're not, don't put the sugar in, but even if you don't want to put the sugar in, you don't have to. That is perfectly optional. Quickly come back over here. What I've done is I've double sifted the flour, so I sifted it into the weighing scale bowl. I then sifted it onto a sheet of baking parchment. I've spread it out. I don't want any lumps, as few lumps as possible, because we need to incorporate that later. I'm going to use a stand mixer. In fact, I'm going to use a stand mixer and I'm going to mix it by hand to show you both methods. If you haven't got one of these, you can use one of those hand ones. A knife, we're going to cut them open later, actually that's for decorating. A wooden spoon, that's very important for later. A skewer, we're going to punch holes in them. And lastly, a disposable piping bag. You don't have to use a disposable one, but I love these things, they're sent from heaven. I'm using fluted nozzle. I will explain a little bit more about that later. I know you should keep them as smooth as possible, but I find that this method works. For me, it's what I like to do. And at the very end, sorry, I forgot to mention, I've got my silicone baking mat again on a baking tray. If you don't have one of these, again, there's no stress, you can use baking parchment, but what I would probably do is maybe just spread a little bit of butter over it just to make sure that they don't stick. Okay, come over to the pan. The butter and water the butter's melted and combined with the water. What I also want to make sure is that I've dissolved all of the salt and all of the sugar. I want everything to be mixed in and combined. I don't want anything hanging around in this batter. I've got this on quite a high heat at the moment. And what I want to do is bring it up to a rolling boil, and you'll see what that is in a minute. I'm going to work very quickly, so as soon as that comes up to a rolling boil, I'm going to turn it down to a medium, take it off the heat, add the flour, I'm going to beat that in. So you can see in there, it's rolling. I'm going to turn it down a couple of notches, take that off the heat. Got my flour on my baking parchment, watch me tip it everywhere. Straight in with all the flour, don't hang around. I'm going to beat this in. It looks wrong. It looks gross actually, and it sounds even worse. I'm really sorry about the sound. I'm going to do a bit of a fanny crap. I'm going to shout over the noise. So what I'm going to do is beat this in vigorously. What I'm trying to do here is to mix the flour in evenly. I want to get everything in, and once it starts to come together, which you can see there, knock some of that off, I'm going to put it back on the heat. And the idea is now, I'm going to start the first part of the cooking process. So turning it over in the pan, over the heat, scrape the sides down, and what I'm trying to do here is remove some of the moisture. This is probably going to take about 2 minutes, and what I'm looking for, essentially, is a lump that forms, it forms a lump or a ball, and it comes away from the sides of the pan. Okay, so this has been going in the pan for about 2 minutes over a medium heat, and what you can see is it forms a clump. I'm not using a non-stick pan, so you see that it's actually sticking at the bottom. Try not to catch too much of that, but what I want is a lump like that. Now there are various ways that you can tell to see if it's ready. One of them is it should have a sheen or a greasy, it sounds really gross, but a greasy shine to it. That's the butter coming out. Another quick way, I'm just going to grab this wooden spoon, is if it holds a wooden spoon, it's okay. What I'm going to do now, come over here, this straight into another bowl. Don't scrape the stuff off the bottom. Actually, get that a little bit there because that's fresh. But don't scrape where it's stuck there. Don't take that off. What you can do is use just a spatula just to turn it over in the bowl. And what we're trying to do here, you can see that steam escaping. We want that to dry out a little bit more. I'm going to be really lazy though and use the mixer. Straight in, low speed. And just give it a minute. You can see the steam coming off of it. I want to try to get rid of as much of that as possible. What I'm also going to do is try to lower the temperature because I don't want to add eggs to the hot batter at the moment, sorry, the hot pastry, because I don't want cooked eggs. Okay, that's done. What I've done here is just by turning it over with the mixer, or you could use your spatula, you can see there's no more steam coming off this. I've brought the temperature down and I want to be able to hold my finger in there without it hurting, and that's probably going to be about the right temperature to add eggs in. So I'm going to go back to using the mixer. I will take it off just because the noise is getting on my nerves, and I want to show you that you can actually do this by hand as well. So with the mixer on low, just come over here. Like I said, I've beaten the eggs slightly. The reason I've beaten them, again, I will say that I may not use all of these, so I want everything to be mixed together. I don't want to have half egg, half yolk, half white, sorry, half yolk. So starting with the mixer on low, I want about 1 egg. I'll pour it in and start the mixer, and you'll see it looks gross again, and it looks wrong, and it looks like it's not going to work, but just give it time. It's going to take that egg and it's going to incorporate it. We're going to turn it off and we're going to incorporate another egg, and we're going to get to the very end, and by that point we want to see if we're going to use the final little drop of egg, but we're going to do some tests to see if we've got the right consistency. We just have one look in there, can you see? It's taken that egg already, so I'm going to turn this off and put the other one in. Okay, we've got about 2 or 3 eggs in there already. I'm going to turn this off because it's not very convenient having it on. And also, not all of you might have a hand mixer, or a stand mixer or a hand mixer, so you can do this by hand. So I'm going to take this off. I do use a rubber spatula just because, I think it scrapes all the stuff from the side of the side of the bowl and keeps everything neat and clean. So you can see in there that's about 2 or 3 eggs. It's still quite a stiff dough at the moment, but it is taking that egg. So I'm going to go in with another one, and I'm going to leave about a tablespoon in the bottom of that bowl, and I'm going by hand. So just cut it in. There's no method here, it's just stirring. Just, ooh. Just keep stirring it. It will take it eventually. And this is pastry turned on its head, because we are taught keep butter cold, don't use your hands, don't get anything hot, but with choux pastry they do things the other way around. So I said that we haven't put all of the egg in, there's a reason. What I'm going to show you now is a way in which you can see if you've got the right consistency. In fact, before I do that, I'm just going to put a little drop more egg in, because even I can see that that's not right. But I'm going to keep that much back. And the reason is, if you have the wrong consistency of choux pastry, it will either go too hard, it won't puff up, they'll be too soft. There are a million different things that can happen, but there are a couple of ways in which you can test to see if it has got the right consistency. Firstly, take a big bit of it on your spoon, and just let it drop. And I want a triangle. That is not a triangle. The other way you can do it, with clean hands obviously, pinch it like that, pull it apart, and that has dropped, but only that bottom peak has dropped, but I want to do it a little bit more than that. So I am actually going to put that last drop of egg in. Let me just show you that again very quickly. Pinch it, pull it apart, doesn't fall down quickly enough. I want it to fall down quite quickly. So I'm going to put this last little drop of egg in and just combine that. And you can see now you've got the consistency of choux pastry, the one that we know and love. Make sure everything is combined, scrape the spoon down and get it all mixed in. And I'm just going to go in one more time with that pinch test. Actually, let's do this test first. Let it drop. There you go. That's more of a triangle. Like that. One last time with the pinch test. There she goes. Little peaks falling over, and that's what I want. Okay, our choux pastry is done. It's got that consistency that we like. We want that triangle. Plop, there it is. What I've got here is a disposable piping bag, and I've fitted it with a fluted nozzle. This might go against the grain, it might go against everything that you've been taught, but I find a fluted piping nozzle makes for more even rise when it comes to baking. But you'll see why later. So I'm going to fill this up with the choux pastry. And what I'm going to try to do is try not to get any air pockets in there at all. Sorry, this is messy and I'm not doing a very good job of it, but you can put this in, put the piping bag into a tall glass like that and fill it that way if you have more sense than me, but I'm doing it the messy way. So just fill your bag right up. Use all of the mix. Apart from that little bit there. So bring the sides up, let it drop, and you can see there's a thumping great air pocket in there. So I'm just going to lie this down on the work surface and just pat some of those air bubbles out. Just see if I can get them out, because I don't want them coming out while I'm piping. Just flip it over and do the same there. This stuff is going to get everywhere. And by the way, do not let it dry on your work surfaces, because you will be chiseling it off. Claw. Mind that bit that went on the floor. Claw, grab it, twist it. It will come out at the bottom. Make a claw, grab it there and twist it. And what we're going to try to do is maintain pressure on the bag, equal pressure on the bag as we're piping. Now move that to one side. I'm going to bring the baking sheet over. If you want to come in, what I'm going to show you is how I would pipe an eclair. So this is a large fluted piping nozzle. I'm going to start at an angle. I'm going to do 3, 3, like that. 3 here and 3 here. You can do as many as you want. You can do larger ones, smaller ones. Obviously watch your cooking times and watch them in the oven. So starting here, let the pastry, so apply a little bit of pressure, let the pastry touch the baking parchment or the silicone mat. Equal pressure, pull it along, and then release the pressure, drop it and pull it up, and you're going to get a little tail like that. We'll do another one. So apply a bit of pressure, let the choux pastry touch the mat, equal pressure, pull it away, release the pressure on the bag, touch down and pull up. Okay, so I've piped all of the eclairs out, all 6 of them. What I'm going to do is just take some water, and I'm just going to take some of these edges off. Come on and have a look. I want these ridges for a reason. As they bake and puff, those ridges are going to keep the shape as even as possible. You will see them at the end, but that's the way I like it. I'm going to cover them in chocolate anyway. So just dip your finger in cold water, and you see these little peaks here, just push them down. There's a reason why we use water, because if you don't, it will stick to your finger. And just there, you can see I'm just going to tuck that little edge in, just at the bottom. And here as well, that little edge, I'm just going to tuck that in. The reason being that if you don't, as these bake, those little apexes or peaks will burn. So, oven temperature wise, a lot of people will tell you to start really high for the first 5, 10, 15 minutes and turn it down. That does work, but I find, and I'll show you an example later actually, that if you do that, for me, I get an irregular shape on it. So I do it at 190 degrees Celsius, that's a fan oven, for 25 to 30 minutes. Do not open the door before 25 minutes. Otherwise bad things will happen. So there you go, I've taken all of the edges off. These are going to go into the oven now. Okay, we've got 1 minute left on the oven timer. I did it for the full 30 because I just took one look in there and realised that it needed a little bit longer. For the very last minute, I'm going to wedge the door open with a wooden spoon. And the reason is, and I can tell you why, because I've just had a Turkish bar. I want the steam that has accumulated in the oven to escape, because now it is about drying them out. I don't want to burn them, I just want to get the steam out of there. So just wedge that open for the last minute. Are you done? Come on in, have a look. Excuse the state of my oven. In fact, don't get too close to the oven because I haven't cleaned it. There we go. They are big, but they are my size. This is where I like them. So come around here. First things first, get them out of the oven. And you can see where I had those ridges, although they do look a little bit misshapen, when I've done them without them, they sort of explode and pop everywhere, and this is the way I like them. I've got some smooth tops here for the chocolate topping. I'm going to do this very quickly. I have got really heat-proof hands. I'm going to take a skewer, I'm going to take one of these and just put it in the end, like that, and just twist it around. And what I want to do is let that steam out. I don't know if you can see that. Is there any steam? No. Pretend steam. I'm actually going to rest them like this because the steam goes up. Okay, I'm going to make the cream mixture for the centre. What you can do is make a custard or a crème légère, anything you want. I'm just going to use a standard cream here. I'm not going to do anything fancy because I haven't got time. So this is a chantilly cream, which is basically a sweetened whipped cream. Into that here I've got 500 millilitres of double cream. I've got 4 heaped tablespoons of icing sugar, a level tablespoon of instant espresso powder. The reason I'm using that is because I don't want to add liquid coffee to this because it will make it wet. But you can use granules if you've got them. It might just take a little while to dissolve. And just down the side there you can see a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste. You can use real vanilla bean if you've got the money, or you can use vanilla extract. Please don't use essence though because it's disgusting. I'm going to put it in here and turn this on, which is going to be really noisy. Okay, you can see I've whipped up the cream. It's quite stiff actually. I didn't go for soft peaks, I've gone for quite a stiff mixture because I want it to hold its shape whilst it's in the choux buns. But it's got that lovely pale colour. I'm just going to put that under the light, I don't know if you can see that better. It's got a lovely pale colour because of the coffee. You don't have to put coffee in, this is just me wanting to put a different flavour in. I'm making mocha eclairs. I'm going to chuck that, excuse me, I'm going to chuck that back in the fridge to keep that cold, and I'm going to load it into a piping bag with a small nozzle on it. Okay, in the piping bag, a disposable piping bag again, I've got the mocha cream and I fitted it with a metal nozzle. I would recommend using a nozzle for this. I've tried just cutting the end off the piping bag and piping it in, it just goes everywhere and you end up with a mess. Come around, look at our little babies. They're not perfect, but they taste beautiful. Well, I think they do anyway. So what I'm going to do, you can see at the ends I've made little holes to let the steam out of. Before I put the nozzle in the piping bag, I just use it to make the hole around the size of the piping nozzle so it goes in easily. So just take one of these, in it goes, and squeeze gently. And just keep going until, come on, the cream comes out at the end. That's one full eclair, so it's quite heavy. Okay, this is a meal. These are a meal. Okay, close to my chest is a bowl of chocolate. I'm going to make the topping for the eclairs. So in here, this is a heat-proof bowl. Remember that because I did it earlier and I didn't use a heat-proof bowl and it was a mess. In here I've got a mix of 100 grams of dark chocolate chips and 100 grams of milk chocolate chips. You can use all of one or all of the other, that's up to you. And I've got 65 grams, not millilitres, 65 grams of that double cream. Again, I work in weight because it's easier for me to use. I'm going to put this over a double boiler, let it melt slowly. Actually, I'm going to turn that heat down a little bit more and just gently stir these through. What you can also do, you can do this in the microwave. I can't get to my microwave at the moment because there's something in front of it. Or you can heat the cream and pour it over the chocolate and let it melt together slowly, but I like this method. No idea why, I just do. And then once that's done, I'm going to take it off the heat and just let it cool, probably to around room temperature, and then we're going to dip our eclairs in this. Not before I dip my hand in it, because it is amazing. Okay, I finished, and I didn't try any, promise. I've put it into, it's not really a shallow bowl, but something a little bit shallower than the bowl I melted it in. Like I said, it's a mix of dark and milk, It makes a really, really nice colour. It's a little bit sweeter. Obviously you can use dark chocolate if you want to, or milk chocolate, or white chocolate, or Marmite, whatever you want, as long as it suits your taste. This is going to cool a little bit more. We're going to dunk the eclairs in, which we've filled. And right, come on, let's dip these babies. So I've got my chocolate, it's cooled slightly. It's probably just above room temperature, but you can see, oh my god, that looks amazing. You can do shots of that. Coming back to my eclairs, you will notice that one is missing. I didn't eat it, I actually dropped it, and even I have standards, so I'm not going to eat it. What I did do though, is when I was filling them, I sort of tapped one end and realised it was hollow. The cream I made was really thick. I wanted it like that, but what I've done is actually gone in the other end as well and filled from both ends, so we get a full eclair. So take one of them, move these out of the way. Hold it like this, and dip. Prêt à plonger. Hold it in there and just turn it from side to side and go as deep as you want. Make sure you've got an even covering. Hold it up, let those drips come off. There we go, one covered eclair. So I'm making decoration for the top. There's glitter everywhere, by the way, I'll explain why in a minute. I'm making decoration for the top of half of the eclairs, and because it's me, I wanted to add some sparkle. So I've got some gold edible dust, and I've got here some chopped hazelnuts. I can see glitter everywhere. I've got some chopped hazelnuts. I just warmed them slightly in the oven. These are pre-roasted because I'm lazy, but I just re-warmed them again. I put them in a little plastic pot, and I've put my beautiful glitter dust in there. I'm just going to give that a little shake to coat them. Come on. And look, they're gold. You know the old adage? You can't polish a nut, but you can roll it in glitter. Okay, after everything, they are done. Look at them. Have a little look. They're nice and shiny and glossy. They're not perfect, but I'm not a patisserie chef. This is what I would quite happily eat. But they're all covered, they're full of cream, and now we get to decorate them. So what I've got in here, just come back up here for a second. I've got a little disposable piping bag, and I've got some melted white chocolate in here. Just nothing special, there's nothing mixed in with it. And what I'm going to do is just take the very end of it, and I mean like that. I'm going to show you on my hand. Like that. Still covered in glitter. And with a sweeping motion, I'm going to make an absolute mess of my kitchen, but I'm doing this all for you. So I'm going to hold my hand up high. Ready? We're going to go whee, like that. All the way across. You can do neater lines. These have got squiggles in them. I like them actually, they're quite retro. That's enough. And what you can also do, how cool is that? Actually, I want wallpaper like that. What you can also do is take a skewer, just drag it through like that. There you go. It's called feathering. Isn't it pretty? Sorry, I have to excuse my hand. One last one. Actually, that looks like a Christmas jumper. See? Christmas eclairs. Okay, so that's one design, and then back to my gold nuts. I love these. I am covered in most of it, so what I'm going to do is just sprinkle these from a height. Look, make it rain and make a mess of my kitchen. How festive and camp. You thought you were just going to get plain old choux pastry from me today. Well, sorry guys. Okay, stop right there. I think camp needs to stop. Well, I'm done. There is glitter absolutely everywhere, but that is never a bad thing because, quite frankly, I look fabulous with it. Come in and have a look. So, These are just two designs that I did. That you can do whatever you want. I liked the fact that these have ended up looking like Christmas slippers, and just love a gold nut. If you liked what you saw, thank you very much, firstly, but please do click like and subscribe. You may have noticed actually that there is yet another one missing. I just prefer symmetry on the plate, and the other one was offending me, so I'm going to get rid of the evidence.